Hi, and welcome to the show. My name is Ray Seagrave, and it's great to have you all here. It's a nice warm day, but it's a little bit cooler in here. So it's nice to have you. I'm going to go through a few things. First, I want to say a little bit about myself and who I am. I've been in the industry now for about 12 years. And I'm a grade A ADI since the standards check was first introduced. And I'm also a grade A audit instructor trainer. I've seen a lot of changes in the industry, and my own personal development has grown. I'm also an accredited coach with the IACP&M, and I'm also an accredited mentor with that association. I'm an industry public speaker, and I'm really passionate about road safety. And I train ADIs and PDIs from all over the country. I do that online and also in workshops, in classroom. And if you're all invited to my group, my Facebook page, my group, the Driving Instructors Toolkit, and there's lots of opportunity for you to be able to grow and develop and ask questions about your own development and coaching and your training. So we're here to talk about coaching and the competences. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cover 10 things I've learned about coaching. I'd like to share those with you. And then we're going to look at some common barriers that you may or may not have come across when coaching. As well as that, I'm going to give you 10 ways of how to build trust in the car. We'll talk a little bit about trust and rapport. And then I'm going to introduce something to you that I've put together called the coaching triangle. And that talks about those 5 areas of development that you could look at to help become better trainers and better teachers. And then I'm going to relate coaching to the 17 different competences. And then after that, there's lots of time, so we've got plenty of time for questions. Okay, so teaching, mentoring, and coaching. So what have I learned over my years? Well, this is my part 3 story, so back about 12 years ago, and how I was taught. And I was really told to teach subjects at that time. I was told to give full briefs right at the beginning of every lesson, a nice big full brief, because the pupils need to know information, don't they? And I was told to present from a nice presenter that they could see, and there's lots of pictures for them to have a look at. And that was the way that I should be doing that. I was also told that I should identify driver faults, tell the pupil where they were going wrong, and then give them a solution. I didn't like being told. I didn't like how the training was presented to me in quite a prescriptive way. That didn't suit me. That wasn't my learning style. Because I knew that I didn't learn effectively that way. That wasn't how I learned. And that really, really grated with my understanding of what being a driving instructor was all about. I got frustrated almost every time I had a session. And I noticed that my questions, when I tried to delve into something a little bit deeper, because I wanted to know more, I had a thirst for knowledge, I wanted to be the best that I could be, a lot of those were just dismissed. I didn't want to teach that way, because I knew how it made me feel. I wasn't taught to focus on the pupil's agenda. I wasn't taught how to adapt what I was doing to help my pupil best learn. I wasn't taught what I've come to realize are the 5 key coaching and teaching skills that I needed to be a successful driving instructor. I was missing them. I wasn't taught the teaching skills to be a great driving instructor I wanted to be. I was disappointed. I wasn't taught any of those things. That's what I was taught. I was taught to pass a test. And now I've come to realize the problems associated with that and how that made me feel as a learner. So I really wasn't taught how to teach. I wasn't taught how to get the best out of my pupil. I helped them get the best and help them find solutions. I hated it. And as a PDI, I could sense my pupils hated it as well. So shortly after passing my Part 3 test, I considered leaving the industry. If I didn't know anything else, I wasn't taught anything else. And is this really the way it is? And I had a mortgage to pay. So I decided to stay, but coach, because coaching was my background. And I understood that there was a few things that I could do to help my pupil learn better than me telling them what to do. So this is why I stayed. Since I passed my driving test, there's been 1.4 million people killed or seriously injured on the road. That's about 103,000 more than the population of Birmingham. And I care. I care about the person next to me, and I care about you guys who care about the person next to you. So here are 10 things that I've learned in my 12 years. Gone are the days when all the information is given from the instructor to the pupil. They're gone. In certain situations, they're required. But I've learned that learning comes from within. I've also learned that we shouldn't teach someone to do something to pass a test. Because they're more likely, just like I did, going to go away and try and do it differently themselves anyway. My training didn't convince me about how I needed to do things the way that it should be done. So I've learned that decisions on risk, they all come from within. The third thing is we coach pupils to make their own decisions based on knowledge that we help them with. We help with knowledge and understanding about risk, but also more importantly about themselves. Why was I frustrated? Why did I then go away and think, oh, I'll do it the way that I think it should be done? Because that understanding comes from within. That's not something you can pretty much teach. You can help it develop and grow. The fourth thing is that we coach pupils to reflect, to come up with their own solutions, because we know that's more powerful. I knew it was more powerful for me to ask a question, have a think about it, reflect on it, and go, yeah, I think I know what I can do there. Would that work? And that's because reflection comes from within. And I've learned that pupils learn best when we center our training on them as an individual. And we empower them to help them discover solutions, take charge of their own learning. That we create fun, interesting, real-life scenarios and real-life situations. We're very lucky here in this area. We're next to 2 motorways, a busy town centre in Birmingham, a busy town centre in Coventry. We've got a nice big palette of things we can train our pupils so they can be safer after they pass their test. And we help them find their solutions to achieve their lesson goals around a syllabus that we have. So we're then enabling them to make their own choices about what they think of the situation, about what options they have, about how they feel about certain things and why.
Okay. Sorry. Very good.
And we teach them to reflect on their performance. What did I do well today? What did I didn't do so well? What is it that I could do differently? What is it I could try differently? Because I know that I used that power of reflection when I was 17 and I passed my driving test. And when I made a mistake and maybe someone sounded a horn at me as I was taking a junction, I wanted to know, what did I do wrong? I needed to find out because I knew, and I don't know where that came from. I've pondered on that, but I think it came from me wanting to try and better myself in my driving. It came from that I didn't want to have an accident, but I needed to know what wasn't quite right about what I did. So I was inquisitive about my own development. And we're training our pupils to be like that because we know when we reflect and they pass their driving test, that's the power within them to police their own actions. That they can go, what did I do well there? What should I have done? What should I have done differently? How's that going to make me safer? Even though I might consider that not to be my fault, but what could I do to make that situation safer? So coaching is not just asking questions. Wendy. Coaching is helping pupils learn for themselves. It's also helping them learn about themselves and the risks that they might take and why and what situations they might be in and when they're taking risks and solutions and maybe a strategy for understanding about themselves and what I do in those situations and how that's not good for me. But we do all three. And this is a message I wanted to get across. I'm not standing here saying coach. I'm standing here saying adapt. But coaching skills are really good in what we do. Because we do three things. We teach, we mentor, and we coach. And there are times when we teach, there are times when we instruct, there are times when we direct, there are times when we tell. Because we need to. Sometimes we need to give the answers. And we do that when there's a knowledge gap, or when we're short on time perhaps, or when we're managing risk, or when there's a risk-critical situation. So there absolutely are times when we instruct. There absolutely are times when it requires us to give some information and tell, or talk through as part of our core competences. I'm going to send you the slides. That applies to everyone, by the way. But we also mentor. So what do we do when we mentor then? Well, we perhaps make suggestions. So our pupils not quite sure what they might want to do, so we perhaps give them options. We give them guidance, because we are the expert, and that's where the knowledge is coming from. And there are times when we do that, when our pupil says to us, oh, I don't know, I'm not too sure what I need to do here. And we might step in and go, had you considered this? What might happen if you did that? If you focused on that there, how might that help you next time? So we tend to mentor when there is a lack of knowledge and that lack of understanding. We're helping raise the pupils' understanding as well as helping them raise their understanding of the situation, but also their understanding of risk. So we're growing their knowledge. And the pupil might be stuck for options because we are the holders of the Part 2 standard. We are the holders of what we're helping our pupils grow, learn and develop into. Really good, safe drivers. And then when we're coaching, we're listening. We're listening to understand them as a person, understand what their blockages to learning might be, understand where they are in their life and what surrounds them, their peers that surround them, their friends that surround them, their influences on them. We're helping them understand themselves for those situations when they might put themselves in a risky situation. And for that, we use paraphrasing just to make sure pupils know that we're listening. We might summarize what they're saying. So if I've heard you correctly then, you're saying to me that is summarizing or paraphrasing. Or when you said, I just don't get it about that clutch thingy, you're helping them to, you're helping to relate. And we're going to talk a little bit about rapport, because you're showing that you're listening. So when do we use that? Well, sometimes we're then building on the knowledge that the pupil already knows. We're helping them grow that knowledge. So when I was taught to give a brief every lesson, it was with disregard to the fact how much the pupil knew. So now my first question is, what can you tell me about? And you'll be surprised. Have you done a turn in the road before? No. How might you do it, do you think? Where might the risks be coming from? If you did it on a different road, how might that be different? If you did it on a busy road, how might that be different? So you are starting from a point where your pupil has a lack of knowledge. You're also actually making sure that their knowledge is factually correct, because what they know might also be situational. They've come across it before, but the situation's been different. So obviously you want that to come out, don't you? So you're building on what the pupil already knows. You're developing those safe actions, what they need to do to be safe, their beliefs, their beliefs about when they can push it with the accelerator, how motivated they are about speed or not, as the case may be, how frightened or anxious they are about what they are doing. And you're addressing any challenges they've got, both to their learning, but also remember that you've got a really great safe driving attitude, haven't you? They might not have. And it's understanding where that comes from and having conversations about that with them. Okay, does that make sense so far? Good, great. So I'm going to just delve a little bit deeper into those 5 coaching areas I talked about, those coaching skills. And these are areas that when I first came into this business 12 years ago, I spent a lot of time understanding, developing within myself to try and be the best that I could be, because I wanted to reduce that 1.4 million down as best as I could. So and I can take some, if you want to put your hand up, I've got 5 things I'm going to talk to you about. What do you think are the 5 key coaching skills driving instructors use in their training? Anyone? Be brave. I know you know. Do you want to start us off?
Listening.
Listening. Yeah, listening skills. Anything else?
Visual watching skills. You have to be watching them.
Yes, watching. Yeah, so watching for what?
Anything. It can be anything. From what they're doing with their eyes to what they're doing with their body language.
Yes.
See their body language,
Yeah.
how uncomfortable they might be in a situation or how confident they are in a situation.
Yeah, exactly. So you're listening with your ears and you're listening with your eyes, aren't you? You're looking at body language, reactions to different things. Yeah, active listening, let's call that. Yeah, great. Anything else? Yes, sir.
Good communication.
Yeah, good communication. Yeah, and I had to learn good communication. In fact, I had to learn to shut up. Because going back to what I was saying earlier, learning comes from within, doesn't it? And when I first started, I found 80% of my time I was talking away, when actually I needed to learn to turn that around.
Finding out how that person likes to be taught.
Yes, finding out how that person likes to be taught. So that's part of good communication skills, getting to know the pupil, isn't it? Let me run through a few more good ones. So we've got things like eliciting and giving feedback. So eliciting is finding out from them how it's going, what's going well, what isn't going so well, maybe what would you do differently next time. Questions like that, questions that we're used to. I know you were nervous last time you went down that bit at the high street. How do you feel about that now? What's different? What changed? Where were your thoughts then? How did that change? What is it you were thinking about then that made you less nervous? And then giving feedback. Do you mind if I give you some feedback? That was brilliant. I really liked the way you took on board what you said you were going to do and really thought about it. And I saw the result. Do you mind if I tell you some of the things that I saw? So you're giving honest, positive, and specific feedback about what you've seen. Then you've got effective questioning. And I've said effective questioning. Now, when I first started being a driving instructor, I only knew 3 questions. And I had to find out, actually, I remember talking to a trainer of mine saying, I haven't got this big question bank of questions to ask. And I was really worried about it. Or what do I say in this situation? Or what do I say in that situation? And I had to relax a little bit, actually, because what I had to learn was, you don't need that. What you need is listening skills. And you'll understand where your next question is going to come from. It comes from the pupil's reaction. So effective questioning and really helping the pupil to think about what's happening, reflect, gain some knowledge and understanding. Active listening, and I've put in there intuition. There's that little thing. Do you know when a pupil turns up, sometimes you go, something's not quite right here. They're not as jolly as they were before last lesson. Or they're driving in a way and you've got that little bit, you haven't got any evidence for it yet, but you just feel there's something not quite right. Who's had that before in the car? Yeah, thank you. Yeah, getting lots of nods, yeah. And by tuning in, as I call it, tuning into the pupil, that's quite an important part of listening, I think. But central, and I've put that central to that, and central to the skills that we are developing as ADIs and PDIs, is the ability to be able to have a nice two-way conversation in the car, good rapport and trust. Because hanging on that are all the things that will make those conversations successful and the questions answered that you're asking your pupil. And I know from personal experience, sometimes that can take 2 weeks, sometimes that can take 2 months, sometimes that can take longer. Because I've learned that we all come from different backgrounds. We've arrived to this point with lots of experience. And we make the decisions we make based on that experience. When we were younger, at 17 and 18, we're making decisions sometimes based on what our pupils think, what our parents think we should do, and our parenting. So central, I would put rapport and trust. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. So if you think they're the skills that you're using, when you're having conversations with a pupil, surrounding that, you want to try and find out when you're going through that training process, what is it that they believe about what's happening? You know, what are their thoughts at that time? How do you think that went? Oh, I don't know, it was a bit rubbish. Talk to me about rubbish. What do you mean by rubbish? Well, I don't know, I thought I could do it better than that. How would you do it differently then? So you're trying to get into what they think about the situation. But as well as that, you're going to be tapping into some things that will be a reflection of what they perceive to be the correct thing to do at any one time. Well, you know, 10 mile an hour over the speed limit's all right, isn't it? Dad says it's okay. He slows down for speed cameras, he never gets caught. So you're tapping into their thoughts and belief system because you're trying to help them understand risks attached to certain attitudes and beliefs. Does that make sense? As well as that, I've put feelings and emotions down there because some of the blockages that we get to learning aren't so much skills, are they? They can be how our pupil feels about a situation, their nervousness, their anxiousness. They can be around any fears that they've got. Fear of making a mistake. Who's got people that doesn't like making mistakes? Fear of failure. And it's interesting where that comes from because and I've thought about this a lot. I think genuinely in a Western society, we tend to be parented that we shouldn't do this, we shouldn't do that, that's bad. Make sure you revise, do your exams, get a good result, don't do that, don't do that, don't do that. It's a very negative way of being brought up, I think. And when we were first taught to walk, we'd fall over. But what would we do? Go, oh, come on, it's okay, get back up, you'll be all right, try again. Go on, give it a go. And then we'd stumble another couple of times, we'd fall over, oh, it's okay, back up, try again. You're doing all right. Isn't that a much more positive way to learn? But then as adults, something changes. And all of a sudden we go, oh, I wouldn't do that. Oh, no, don't do that, you'll fail at that. So sometimes it's within ourselves to change our own mindset. So how we feel and our emotional state can affect our drive. If we're driving with fear, if we're driving with anxiety, and we're finding out from pupils how that's affecting them and what might be causing that. And normally it's a fear of failure, fear of crashing. But there's others as well that's in there. And those things affect actions and behaviors. So how we think can affect what we do, and that can affect how we feel about that. Give you an example. If you're driving down the motorway at 70 miles an hour and you're in the fast lane and you're 2 car lengths back from the car ahead, well, we would go, ooh, not too sure about that. But this particular driver hasn't had a problem doing that. So this driver thinks he's safe. So their thoughts are, I'm okay, I'm all right. I believe I'm safe, and because of that, no emotion. I haven't had a problem yet with that, and therefore I'm calm. It's not affecting me in any way. And that behaviour then is being reinforced by the fact that nothing is happening. So the action will remain the same, won't it? So they continue to get closer and closer and closer until there's an event. And then bang, straight into the car in front. And then that driver's then got a choice. Their thoughts and beliefs might change. Oh, I was obviously too close there. I thought it was okay. I'm going to need to make sure that I keep further back next time, because I don't want that to happen. And all the how that's making me feel now. I could have lost something there. I could have lost my own life. I was lucky just to get the front bumper smashed. So I won't do that again. I'll make sure I keep further back. So all these three things are interconnected. That's us, a picture of us, every single one of us. So if we change our feelings about something, it'll change our actions. If we change our actions, it'll change our feelings and our thoughts. And when we're working with pupils and we're talking to them about these three things, they begin to understand, yeah, I see why I do that now. So now what could be the risk attached to that? Well, I can see now. I could have an accident, couldn't I? Is that what you want? That's a rhetorical question. That's not what they want. What they want is to be safe. What they want is to understand themselves. So they recognize that on occasion they like to feel the thrill that they get from speed, but they recognize, no, don't do it here. I'll do it on a track where I can really put my foot down if I enjoy that. So with our help, we are helping pupils find their own solutions. And we're helping them make decisions that keep them safe when we're not there. That's the important thing. It's one of the things that I was really and still passionate about, obviously. When that pupil is not with me anymore, how are they going to drive? I felt it most when I saw my son drive off in his new car. And questions, have I taught him enough? Have I done this? Have I done that? Is he all right? Is he going to be okay? It's chaos out there. Is he going to be able to cope? And I had to say to myself, you're okay. He's fine. Because he understands. And he can reflect. And he can monitor his own behaviour. He can be the policeman of his own action. And he can make changes because you've taught him that. So let's talk about some common barriers. Common problems when asking questions. I'm going to put a few up. Let's see if you recognise any of these. The pupil is unresponsive to the question you ask. You can put your hand up if you've had that before. 1, 2. Yeah, I've had that. Yeah, I'm getting nods, lots of nods, yeah. Your pupil says, you ask a lot of questions. Do you get that?
Especially when they come from a different instructor.
You have had that. Thank you. What's your name? Neil. Thank you, Neil. Yeah, especially when they come from a different instructor, perhaps. I've had that as well. People might answer, well, you're the instructor, you tell me. Who's had that? Oh, there's a lot more nods. Yeah. Well, if you think, I mean, they're just a few, and I'm sure there's a few others that perhaps you've come across in terms of how people are resisting. But really, if you think what our job is to understand what might be causing that, response. And there are 5 things that I've learned about rapport. So the first thing is rapport exists when 2 people understand each other and communicate smoothly. Would you agree with that? Yeah, we've got good rapport here, haven't we? We've got lots of nods and, yeah, all right. We could probably go and have a coffee later, couldn't we? Yeah. Building rapport is how humans connect. We have friends, hopefully. And we enjoy their company. We've got good two-way communication with them. And we exchange ideas. And rapport develops out of a willingness to understand different points of view in a non-judgmental way. Now, I know that we're going to have pupils that don't think like we do. I never thought like I did when I was 17. I know that people come from different walks of life, have different influences on their behaviour. But what we are doing is we are trying to understand them, and as well as helping them understand themselves, from their point of view. And doing that in a non-judgmental way. We're not there to judge, we're there to help. A rapport helps us build relationships with others on a personal and equal level. So this is not a driving instructor, and this is not a pupil. That's a hierarchical level. We're here. We're on an equal, non-judgmental level. We're not above anyone. We know more, but crikey, you know, I'm not a politician. I couldn't build a wall. There's lots I don't know. But in our situation, we are equal and level, and we are approaching that in a non-judgmental way. And 5, verbal communication skills aren't enough. Who said body language earlier? With a strong relationship with the other person, because body language is as important. And I'll tell you why that's important, because good in-car communication does not always mean pupils tell you what they're thinking and feeling. So we can have a nice rapport, but I don't think I can tell you that, because something hasn't happened yet. Rapport is a relationship that helps you build respect and trust. And the thing that has to happen is trust. Because without trust, your pupil is very much less likely to do that. They're very much less likely to believe in what you say. They're very much less likely to answer willingly. Because I just don't trust you yet to tell you what I personally think, what I feel about that. Especially when you're saying don't speed and all my mates are telling me to put my foot down when I'm practicing in their car. Not too sure I can deal with that yet. They may not answer honestly, and they may not answer you at all. So I would put trust right at the center of everything. Build trust with your pupils, and it's like you unlock a whole new doorway into how they're thinking and how they're feeling. I'll give you an example. This is a few years ago now. I was demonstrating roundabouts to a pupil who wanted to see how I should do it, how she should do it. So I said, well, would you like me to show you? Would that help you? She went, yeah. So we swapped seats, and I went backwards and forwards, did a couple of roundabouts, and of course, we're doing it at the correct speed, mirroring signal, MSPSL, all of that. It's all great. But I couldn't help noticing the pupil was doing this as we were going around the roundabout. She did it once, and then as we're going around the roundabout. She did it twice. And I pulled up, and I said, how did that go? How do you feel that went? And she went, I thought he was a bit slow. And I thought, thank you. In my head, I went, great. That's great trust. She's prepared to tell a driving instructor that they were driving too slow. I went, well done, Ray, pat on the back. And then my next question was, talk to me about that. Why do you think it was too slow? She said, well, when my dad does it. So then from that conversation, I established that her father drove way too fast, and she was pinning herself up against the door for security. And she just did that automatically now. And then she told me that, shockingly, her father wanted to die on the road because he was a motorbike enthusiast, and if he was going to die, that's where it was going to be. So we had some quite nice conversations about risk, responsibility. So only developed rapport and trust will ensure that that happens, that you get a pupil prepared to tell you what they think, they really think, and that's when the magic happens. So I've given you 10 ways to build trust. First way, drive how you teach. Always show best practice. Why wouldn't you? Be true to your word and follow through with your actions. Because as custodians of safety, what you do and say is always on display. And that should be rock solid. That's your foundation stone for everything else you do. Have the courage to say no, even when it disappoints your pupil. Am I ready for my test yet? Let's talk about that. I'm going to say no. Let's just talk about what might be the reason for that. Because you're trying to help your pupil come to the same conclusion. That way, you've got an equal understanding. There's no jarring heads. If your pupil's understanding is level with your understanding of where they are, you've done a great job because you've helped raise their awareness. You've helped raise their understanding. The third thing is listen to your pupils' point of view. You know, be non-judgmental because it's a reflection of what they believe right now. It's been about their past. They've come to this point believing what they believe based on their experiences so far and what they've been taught and how they've been parented and what they've seen their friends do. And you know, authentic kindness helps build trust. So helping your pupil out, even though, on occasion, even though when it shows no benefit to you, your pupil will recognise that. And I think it's important that you are open about how you feel about their success. You're their best advocate, aren't you? You're the one trying to help and support them. When they pass their test, there's going to be 2 people jumping up and down, really excited about the result. At least 2. So show them you care, and then you're more likely to trust, to be able to develop trust. And then credit where credit's due. So acknowledge and appreciate the effort that the pupil is making. Remember, you've got your agenda as an instructor, and then you've got your pupil's agenda. And your pupil you might be thinking, well, they might not be saying it, but you might be thinking, well, yeah, it was okay, it was a little bit better than last time. Okay, we'll have a chat with her, see how she feels. And your pupil's going, yes, come on, that was awesome. How much better was that than last time? So it's important that you help your pupil realize where your pupil is in their thoughts and what they are thinking. Because it's their agenda you're working on, not yours. Of course, you're helping them raise their understanding as to what is awesome, what is safe, what is not going to kill them. 7th thing, recognize and appreciate the efforts of friends and family who may be helping your pupil to learn. Now, I'm sure that mum and dad really want them to do well, don't they? So mum and dad give them, they love them, they want to give them everything. You know, this is how you're going to pass your test, son. This is how you're going to pass your test. You know, this is how you're going to do it. Do this, do that. When you're out with me, do this, do that. But we know about how behaviours can change over time. We know that, I can't remember how I was taught. I remember how I drive now, but I can't remember how I was taught. I remember a few things. It was a while ago. And it's not always the safest thing to do, but it might have been how that person was taught, and they want the best for their pupil, don't they? So finding out that is great. If your pupil is prepared to say to you, oh, Dad's told me to do it this way, and you're telling me to do it that way. You want to know that, don't you? Because it might be a different situation. It might be the same situation, and then you've got to handle it sensitively, so your pupil knows that you're handling it sensitively. Always do what you believe is right. Pupils respect your honesty when you say, no, you're not quite ready yet, but let's just talk about that. And they respect your professionalism. Your professionalism should stand you out from everyone else. And then number 9, admit your mistakes. You're human too. There might have been a mistake in this PowerPoint slide, I don't know. But I'm human, aren't I? Yeah, we all make mistakes. None of us are perfect. But what we do is we look for improvement and consistency. Every time we drive, we're aware of what we are doing, and we're aware, oh, perhaps I should have done that differently. So what do? We reflect, and then we get back on it. And that's what we're helping our pupils to do. And then 10, be honest, open to challenge, and non-judgmental. Open to challenge. Like I said to you earlier, I loved it when that people said to me, oh, I thought you were driving a bit slow. Fantastic. Yeah, challenge me. If I'm saying something that's different from what you are hearing, or is different from what you've been told, or I'm doing something that's different from what you've seen before, then let me know. Yeah, because I'd like to explain in that situation the reason for that. Okay, everyone's all right so far? Good. So we're going to relate now coaching and mentoring and teaching to all the competences. So let's have a look at what the national standards say. So if you go to the national standards and look in section 633 on coaching, you'll see a statement there that says, this element is about engaging in a conversation. It's about helping learners identify what the obstacles are to their learning. So what is it they don't know yet? What is it they don't understand? What is it about how they're acting physically or emotionally that's not helping them move forward? And helping them develop options for doing something different so they can get around that and learn and develop. But they're saying that it's unlikely that that learner will be willing to engage in that process if a secure grounding hasn't been established in the previous section, which is this: a climate that promotes learning. So here, you're looking at engaging the learner, because they recognise that if you don't engage someone, if they're not engaged with what you're doing, if they don't believe in what they are doing, then they're not going to be going with you with certain suggestions and options. It's going to be much more difficult for them to learn. So they are less well equipped to deal with the wide range of challenges that they're going to need after the driving test. Because that's why we're doing it. It's not really for the certificate, is it? It's to reduce that 1.4 million. So it matters then who's talking in the car, because the amount of talk your pupil does is directly linked to their progress. So let's have a look at lesson planning. So we're using our thoughts, feelings and beliefs triangle, we're using our skills in the middle, and we're using all our skills about questioning and intuition and listening and thinking about what's the next question I can ask them to try and delve into what might be an issue there. And you're listing feedback from them. How did that go? What were your feelings that time about, how nervous you were? So in lesson planning, you're doing that both at the start but also through the lesson, throughout the whole lesson, because goals can change. So at the start, you're helping the pupil set a specific goal. So what is it you'd like to achieve, develop, improve, do more safely, get better at, be less rubbish at, as you call it, pupil? What is it you'd like to feel better about, feel less nervous about, feel more confident with? And then you're asking questions to find out what they need from you. How would you like me to help you with that? Because then you're matching your training to their needs and ability. Do you recognise that? How can I help you with that? Now we've had a conversation about it, do you want to give it a go yourself? Or do you want a prompt so you can remember it? Or do you want me to demonstrate it? How can I help you? Do you want me to talk you through each step? Would that help? Or do you want me to talk you through bits of it and then you do the bit that you're confident with? So asking them how they would like to practice it today is another good question. Because you're helping them put in the centre of their learning. They might say, oh, I don't want to go back to where we were last week because the school came out at this time and I was a bit nervous about that. Okay, yeah, sorry about it. I noticed that. We changed it, didn't we? I moved you somewhere else, didn't I? Yeah, okay. You're making sure that the practice area is helping them develop. Now, one of the things that we do as trainers is move pupils on or help them with things and break it down if they're struggling. So, of course, our practice area has to do that, doesn't it? So it needs stretch. But we're not going to stretch them so far outside their comfort zone that the risk goes up and they're not able to cope with what we set up. And then I'm saying about being in tune. So you're staying in tune with how they're learning and progressing. How is that going? How do you feel that went? What's going well at the moment? What were you less nervous about that time? Was there anything you were less nervous about that time? Because you need to adapt if they're finding it too hard or too easy. And one of the biggest causes of standards check failure is you're not adapting the lesson. The pupil's not learning anything if they're doing the same old thing and they're happy in their comfort zone. Because I know outside your comfort zone is where the magic happens. And it's helping them discover that. Okay, so giving pupils a choice on how they learn makes them participants in their learning. It increases levels of engagement. They become part of the process. You're less likely to get shoulder shrugging. You're less likely to get I don't know, you're the instructor, you tell me. They will feel happier about their learning environment because they're more involved. So when they go home and Dad said, you've had 10 lessons now, why aren't you on manoeuvres yet? They're happy to say, hang on a minute, oh, yeah, I'm not that far yet. I'm happy doing what I'm doing. That's okay. I'm doing all right. I'm really happy with it. My instructor's really happy with my progress. So I'll get there, Dad. So if you look at risk management, and again, you're using your skills and your questioning techniques, you're helping them learn to take on that responsibility. So what might happen if? Or you're saying, how much help do you want from me now? Would you like to take a little bit more responsibility? Would you like to take on more of those things that I was doing for you? How are you helping them grow their understanding of risk? So after your driving test then, when your little son Jack's in the back and you pull out of that junction and I'm not there to stop you like I did this time, what could happen? Oh, don't say that, Ray. But that's real, isn't it? And yes, Ray did say that. And she remembered that. You are helping them learn the consequences of their actions. What would happen if your friends said this? What would happen if you were driving on your own? Would that be any different from when you've got your friends in the car? Because there has been some research to suggest that when a young person is driving, a young adolescent is driving, that they're more likely to take risks with their friends in the car. Yeah. In fact, the research put the driver on their own, and the driver thought their friends were watching, and they were taking more risks. So they didn't even have to be present. So you're helping them learn the consequences to their actions. Because we're not trying to build robots here. We're helping pupils make choices.
Giving them the power.
Yes. We're empowering them to make their own, yes. With the understanding, with the knowledge of what those consequences are. And it's our responsibility to make sure that they understand, given themselves and where they are and the choices that they make in their life, what could happen after the test. You're making sure that they can learn in a safe environment. They understand that actually, yeah, that was the correct speed to go around that roundabout. I understand why now. And you're helping them practice. You're letting them have a go, have a play. I taught my both sons to ride a bike. How did I do that? I ran along behind them. Has anyone else ever done that? Yeah. But I was managing the risk. How was I managing the risk? My hand was just behind the saddle. But I was letting them have a wobble because I knew if they didn't have a wobble, how are they going to learn? And that's what we're doing in the car. If we're managing what they are doing in a safe environment where we're managing the risk when it's our responsibility to, we're letting them have a play. We're letting them make mistakes because that's how we learn. So to reduce those poor and reckless driving decisions that they may be faced with after the test, we're helping them understand what their thoughts are, what they believe about speed cameras, what they believe that they might say to their friends when they encourage them to speed up, what they might do. We're helping them understand that feeling of excitement and how that might impact on their behavior. We're helping them understand what those influences on their behavior might be. And how the actions and the decisions they make impact on their crash risk. So they now know if they don't keep a 2 to 3 second gap in dry weather, there's that lifesaver gap, as I call it, they're going to have a problem. So they're now in some good habitual behavior. We're using the power of habit here, some good habitual behavior that's going to keep them safe. Okay, so it's one final look at teaching and learning strategies. When we were at school, we were taught subjects. Maths, chemistry, physics. Those things that we would use later in life. But as an adult learning is centered and focused on things that we need to know now, aren't they? We need to learn now. And that's how adult learning is different. So when you've got a young 17-year-old that's been used to being taught subjects, sometimes it's hard for them to take responsibility. Do you see that? And maybe they've never been encouraged up to the age of 17 to take responsibility for anything. But we're bringing them out into an adult world now, where we're responsible for every action that we make, that we do. So adults mainly learn by doing, application, experience, and trial and error, having a bit of a wobble. We're letting them experience what's happening in the car. And it's a continuous process of exploring, investigating what's happening, supported by the actions we then take again, and we'll do it again, see what happens. Was that good? Was that further closer to my goal or further away from my goal? Because we're reflecting on what's happening. So when you relate that to teaching and learning strategies, then we're asking questions to match what you do to help how the pupil best learns. How can I help you with that? How would you like to do that? What would you like from me? Before, you've really enjoyed it when I've demonstrated, because you've told me you like to see things being done. Do you want me to do that this time? Would that help you? Or do you want me to talk you through it? Or parts of it? You're asking questions to encourage and elicit feedback. All the way through a lesson, as part of the structure. You're setting something up, the pupil's practicing, you're pulling over, because learning is done mainly at the side of the road. Practice is done on the drive. You're going to get on your bike in a minute. What's going to happen? You're going to take hold of the steering wheel. I'm going to push you, but I'm here. I'm going to hold you, and so you fall over. I've got you. It's all right. You're going to give it a go. Is that okay? Right. Drive on when you're safe. And your answer to their questions give honest, positive, and specific feedback. And questions use. With your questions, you're using examples of good and bad practice. So you're helping the pupil learn what risky driving behaviour is. And wow, don't we have a whole vocabulary to draw from? Every time we go out and we see something happen on the road, there's something there we can take, and we can say to a pupil, "Did you see that car cut the corner up when we approached that T-junction?" So when you learn how to turn right into a side road, what can you tell me about the risks now then, now that you've seen it for real? And you're using questions to help pupils learn about the rules and any technical information. So what can you tell me about how you would move away from the side of the road? What can you tell me about roundabouts? How do they work? What does priority mean? What do those double white lines in the centre of the road mean? What do the red and yellow lines mean? Why are they different? What do you know? What can you tell me about this? Because you see that pupil as individual, their level of knowledge you've not even no understanding of until you ask them the question. And their background, and what they think and what they feel. And you want them to answer you in an honest way. And that might take a little bit of time. Okay, because there are 1,400,000 killed since I passed my driving test. And on average, you probably train, I don't know, maybe 40 or 50 pupils a year, if you're busy. If you gross that up amongst us all, that's about 1.5 million pupils pass their driving test through the efforts of us all. That's 7.5 million million drivers over the next 5 years. If you change the thoughts of just 10 of your pupils, what you will do will mean 3.8 million people are less likely to be killed or seriously injured. Your CPD is important for the success of your business and how we act as an industry to bring the crash rates down. So how we help shape the thinking of our pupils today really impacts on what happens tomorrow. Thank you. Right, a copy of the slides. You're welcome to have a copy of the slides. You can, if you want to take a photo of that, or if you want to scan my card, all my details are on there, and if you send me an email, I'll send you a copy of the slides. Also, I'll send you a CPD certificate for the time we spent today, so you'll have that as well to put in your little folder. Anyone got any questions? And please, now's your opportunity. Quiz me. I'm happy to answer. Yes, sir. What's your name?
Chris.
Chris. Thanks, Chris.
I'm a PDI, so being non-judgmental, when you approach with a pupil with parents' beliefs, what parents do,
Yeah.
like that, the example you gave, the parent going round and round about too fast, how do you combat that without being judgmental and overly critical? You have to be critical. How do you be non-judgmental to your pupil?
Well, it's understanding that your pupil's got an opinion, and every driver's got an opinion. Your opinion is one that's based on a sound, safe way of driving, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you're helping your pupil understand, actually, yeah, I could drive like that, and that could be the consequences. So you're helping them raise their understanding. Because rather than then turn around and go, oh, don't think like that. What are you thinking like that for? Who's told you that? That's wrong. And they're thinking, oh, Dad said that this morning. So by keeping it open and approaching non-judgmental, that makes you more approachable. They're not going to get negative feedback. And whenever you get negative feedback, what happens? You close down, don't you? So you want to try and keep that information flowing. So it's being positive. I can understand why Dad might think like that. Let's just talk about that a little. You know, we've all gone through our own experiences. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Great, thank you. Any others? Okay, well, thanks a lot for your company this afternoon. It's been great. Seek me out on Facebook, add me as a friend, and send me an email. Thank you.
Total Drive is an award-winning driving instructor app for independents, multi-schools, pupils and parents. The app includes a powerful diary, free lesson reminders, progress records, reflective logs and more. Total Drive is proven to help instructors earn more, work smarter and improve pupil pass rates. If you're a driving instructor, you need to try Total Drive by starting your completely free 30-day trial at www.totaldrive.co.uk. Total Drive is an award-winning driving instructor app for independents, multi-schools, pupils and parents. The app includes a powerful diary, free lesson reminders, progress records, reflective logs and more. Total Drive is proven to help instructors